going to do a frame today, and it's super easy. This is another one of my frames. I'm making this for a friend, and I thought I'll record it. So I'm just taking the regular 16 by 20 frame, and we're going to convert this into a jewelry frame. So let's get to it. You'll notice that I left the frame covered, and the reason I did that is we're going to flip it over. I'm going to measure off my wire, cut it down to fit the back of it. And I thought, why not just leave it covered and protected while I cut that wire to measure it, and then I'll take the covering off and we'll apply the wire. I don't really want to scratch up the black frame. So right now I'm going to cut this wire prior to stapling it down to the back. And I use my little snips. Like I said before, you can use your tin snips if you want. Just go. I just use these because that's what works for me, and I'm in no hurry. I'm not going anywhere. And I can just be kind of relaxing for me. So I'm just going to get this cut and size it up, and then we're going to staple it to the back of this. Before we staple this to the back, you do want to drill your holes. So the first thing you're going to do before stapling your metal frame to the back is drill your holes for your knobs. So you're going to get those measured off too. I'm going to show you that in a bit here. So kind of fun too for me is I have so many people think, oh, you must sell so much stuff. Really, I don't. What I do is I create these videos for you to learn and to share. I felt it was important to get out there and give people something to do while they're at home trying to, fight the boredom, so to say, and kind of be a little productive. What I do with a lot of my projects is I will gift them to people. Like this one I'm making for a friend of mine. She loves black and red. That's why I chose that color. Another product I may make, I do have a few clients that want certain little things that, hey, Hallie, make this for me. So, I'll put myself out there and give it a try. And meanwhile, we'll videotape it at the same time. And I share those, experiences with you for you can learn how to make neat stuff too with me. But for the most part, I do have an inventory page on Facebook, which is under Hallie's Little Treasures. So if you check that out, you'll see my inventory page. And I can recreate pretty much anything I've made. But a lot of my stuff, I just like to bless other people with it. That's kind of how I roll. I'm not really into it to make the money. Where I see income coming in down the line is once I get monetized and I can do ads and things like that. And I'm far from that right now. Unless you click and subscribe and help me get my numbers up. But meanwhile, I'm not worried about that. What I like is I just like sharing the love and not the germs. We're going through difficult times right now, and I think with the times that we're in, we all need to pull together and be nice to one another and share our talents, whether it be you're a good baker or you're a great, artist, or if you're just really good at organizing things, whatever your gift is, share that with the people around you. That's how I got started. I was just sharing with my friends and my family, and it just boomed. So share the love. Put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone, and let's just kind of get through this season in our life. It's going to get better. It's going to be different, but it's going to be okay. So what I do is I butt this in up. So you have the V, butt this in up, snip, and it gives you a nice clean cut. Another thing you may want to do is when you're cutting wire, you might want to wear some gloves where you don't cut your hands. You'll notice I don't have gloves on. That doesn't mean that's the way to do it. That's just because I've done this enough. And for me, like I've shared before in my other videos, I'm a TK person. I touch and feel what I'm doing. So gloves for me hinder me. But I also pay the price for not having gloves on. Sometimes I get a good little nasty cut. So be careful. So we don't need that piece. So now we're going to measure it off this way. And instead of using a ruler, I'm just actually measuring it right to the frame because that's where it's going to go anyway. And like I said, I kept the cover on so I don't scratch it up. But see how this is a lot closer? You can see that? The edging is a lot cleaner. And when I'm done cutting my wiring, I just put my extra pieces to the side because I'm probably going to use them in another project I do later down the road. So if you have a place where you can wrap this up, band it with a rubber band or whatever, and store it for the next project, you may want to do that. So as I finish cutting this wire up, wire cut. Now that we have the wire cut, we're going to unwrap the frame. We're going to drill the holes for the knobs for the frame, and then we're going to staple this on. But I like to drill the holes first. That way, when I'm putting the wire down, I can accommodate that. So, what I'm doing is measuring off for my knobs on the bottom. So you want to make sure when you put your knobs on, and I've shared this before, don't put your knobs right in the corner where the frame is actually come together. If you do, that's a very weak area. That's where two pieces of wood are basically being glued together for the frame. You want to bring that in a little bit, and I usually say at least an inch on each side from the corner. So you have your little corners here, and then measure it off. I'm using white chalk because I want to see where I'm going to drill. So we are going to mark this with little tiny marks because the knobs have to cover up where the drills are going to go. You don't want big splotchy marks and then not have it look good when you are putting your knobs on. So do it right the first time and measure it off. Measure twice, drill once, measure twice, cut once. So measure it off twice, mark it then, and then drill your holes. So using a 12-inch ruler, we know the middle of 12 is 6, right? So I've measured off the sides to make sure they're both even. And now we're just going to put a little mark here. Just a little tiny mark is all it needs. And then we're going to measure those off, and then we're going to drill some holes. And I also do visually. I like to put them on there to see if that is aesthetically how I want it to go. These knobs that I'm using today, I picked up from Amazon, and actually, I pick up a lot from Amazon just because I don't have to go out and shop it. I can go online, I can buy what I want, I do my dimensions. And if you don't like what you get, as long as you don't rip it apart and mess up the packaging, you can just send it back. Amazon's really good about giving you a refund if you oops and buy the wrong thing, as long as you don't do it all the time. Don't abuse the system. But anyway, I'm gonna lay these out. Aren't these cool? They're little red knobs. On the black, it's going to look so cool. I'm doing black and red because that's her favorite colors. And what I've always said, you're making it for the client or for your friend who you're gifting it to. You're not making it for yourself. So we're going to measure it out. We're going to put these on to make sure aesthetically it's what we want and functionality, but they do have to hold the necklaces and such. And we'll drill some holes. Another thing you want to think about is when you're putting your screws in, you don't want to have screws that are going to go through so thick that they're going to be wobbly. They need to fit and be snug. Sometimes you'll have to buy smaller, shorter screws, not smaller, but shorter screws to work. But in most cases, they come with two different sizes of screws. So you're going to have your choice of which screw you want. And then when you're drilling your holes, you want to match up your drill to your screw, and then have the drill bit just a smidge larger than the screw. Otherwise, when you're putting them in through the wood, they're going to be really snug and tight. And that snug and tightness is actually going to come from when you screw the knob on. So it could be a little bit wider for they can just slide in there easily, and then the tightness is going to come when you snug up the knob onto the screw itself. Now that I've laid these out, I am going to mark the wood for I can drill for these knobs can go on there, and I think they aesthetically look pretty good, and they should work pretty functionally because they're far enough apart where you're not squeezing them in too much. And notice they're not on the edges. Don't use that edge, because if you do, you're going to snap and crack your frame. You'll notice that I did the markings on the front, and the reason I did that is I'm actually going to drill from the front. That is where the knobs are going to sit, and sometimes when you have a frame and it has like a little lip in it or any kind of embellishments or just fancy markings, you're going to be thrown off by that if you drill from the back. This frame is pretty straightforward, and this is actually a frame that would be the best one for you to work at doing first. And if you're not comfortable drilling holes with the drill, that's okay. Gorilla glue it. Just get some Gorilla glue or super glue, you know, that real strong glue that's going to not fall off when you put jewelry on your knobs, and just glue your knobs on. And I don't think a glue gun is going to be what you want to use for that, because that's not super strong. So that's more for crafting and stuff like that. So get some real strong adhesive glue that's going to, and just glue it on. But for me, I like to drill the holes. I like to have them secure. Plus, I like to play with the toys. I get my husband's drill out. Also, when you're drilling, this is my disclaimer. Anybody that's not an adult should not be using an electric tool of any kind without adult supervision. So this is not made for kids. This is made for adults or an older child that has an adult supervising the whole process with them, that's standing there going through this and doing it with them. Not saying, oh yeah, go ahead. No. No, 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 no. Have your parents there. There needs to be an adult there. And that doesn't mean your older brother who's a goofball. That means your parents. So make sure it's supervised. I don't want anybody getting hurt. So now that we have the drill bit in the drill, I'm going to drill these holes, and I'll record a couple of the drills where you can see how it's done. But it's just pretty much make sure you have proper gear on. Keep your eyes covered. If you wear glasses, I always have my eyes covered where I can see. But make sure you have proper gear on, and that you're holding it right too. Don't hold it here and then drill down and drill a hole in your hand. Be smart. Be smart, be careful, and be smart. So we have the drill bit in, so now we're going to drill these down. Just be super safe when you're doing it. Keep your hands away and make sure you have proper gear on. That is, this wood is not the real hardwood. It's particle board basically. It's this cheap stuff, but it is. So it drills down real easy. Another thing too is you can always mark it. Ask your honey if he'll do it for you. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, depending on who you're married to. But if your husband's like mine, he'll, oh yeah, sure. But I'd rather do it myself because I like playing with the toys. But then I get them right where I want them. But he's really good about it. But sometimes he makes it the way he wants it to be. And I want it my way. It's my project. But his way is usually better though. I will say that. But I've learned a lot from him. I give him that. So, but anyway, have your husband drill it for you if you're not comfortable drilling them. These drills are not that expensive. If you decide you want to really get into doing this kind of stuff, you can use these drills also for screwdrivers because they have the attachments to it. So they do more than just drilling. They're like an electric screwdriver, and they have the battery that pops off, charge it, pop it back on. So pretty easy peasy. And you don't have to get that big one. You can even get a Dremel tool. They're smaller and they're more versatile for a woman. So a little Dremel tool would do the same thing. That's Dremel, and I'll put that down in the description. I'll put links and stuff down for different things. Even like for the knobs and what I got, where they're from, all that will be in the description. Now you're going to clean all that off, and all I do is use a little bit of water because I am working in my studio. I try to keep it clean, but that all wipes off. See how smooth and nice that is now? The little holes are in there. You're not going to put your knobs on yet though, because we have to put the frame on the back. So we're going to pop this over and we're going to put the frame in. So we're just going to take this backing out, and what I do is I reuse everything. So I hang on to the glass or the plexiglass for projects going forward, because you're not going to use the plexiglass in here. So you basically getting a multi-use out of this. You're not getting the plexiglass for free because you paid for the frame, but you are getting plexiglass that you can use for another project later. So, and actually, I think I'm going to try making one of those face shield things for my glasses. Why not? I have the plexiglass now. So if I figure out how to do that, I'll show you how to do that too. Instead of wearing a mask all the time with this COVID, I think we're going to be seeing the mask and the shields for a while, unfortunately. But I'd rather wear a face shield than a mask, so at least you can breathe in a face shield. So this comes out because we're not going to use it again, and the plexiglass. But see what I meant by, might be able to use that to make a shield. We'll see. So before you put your wire down, just make sure it's untweaked. It's nice and smooth and flat. Remember what I said, you might want to wear gloves because the edges will cut you. But I like to get the tweaks out of it before I put it on my frame, for it lays flat on my frame. And then as you staple it down to your frame, it's going to smooth out anyway. So I'm actually going to tilt this camera down so you can see what I'm doing. I'll still talk to you. I promise. I'll talk you through it. But I'm going to show you how this lays out. I want to put that above, or you want to at least put it in the holes, if you can do that, where those screws are going to go. But I have enough room here, I can put it above. And I'm putting the smooth edge of this up on top, because I just know my client, or my friend who I'm making this one for, it's not for a client, may grab that, and I don't want her to cut up her hands on this wire. So, staple gun. Don't go right on the edge. If you go on the edge, you can snap and crack your wood. So now that you have your staples in and your frame down, you'll notice probably on these drills where the screws are going to go, you might have to trim that wire up a smidge, because some of the wire is going to lay over the hole where your screws are going to go. So don't be afraid to snip that out a little bit. Just don't lose the integrity of where it's, and don't leave them rough and edgy. I think we're good there. Okay. So I decided the shorter screws are going to be the ones side. That's going to give just enough for that to snug up in there. So we're going to try one and see how it goes. Pops right in. You see that? It pops right in. Flip it over. Screw your knob on. And you'll feel it grab. And that was the right. come from the back side because we already have the hole marked. We already drilled it from the front. So these will pop right in. And we want the shorter screws for this particular frame because it's a skinny frame. You're also going to tighten these up from the back side with the screwdriver. Working at my table, I lay this over the edge. That lets the knobs, I can put my frame down flat, my knobs are right here, and I can get right to those and tighten them up. Now it's time to go from a drill to a screwdriver. Take the drill bit out, put the screwdriver in. It's that easy. Myself personally, I like to use the handheld screwdriver instead of the electric when I'm doing these. So I probably will go out and get that just for I can just finesse it just a smidge more and not strip the heads off of my screws. But these are pretty tight, so I'm pretty happy with those. Another thing while we're working on the back is we're going to pad this. The reason you want to pad the back a little bit is for it's not going to, number one, scratch the wall. So now we're going to add padding to the back of it, and the reason you want to add your padding strips is to keep it from scratching the wall and to also give you a little bit of depth for when you're hanging your jewelry on those wires that you have a little bit of room, a little bit of give. So we're going to add these on. You can pick those up at the Dollar Tree. They come in a pack for $1. One of the things I notice is when you have these little dots and stuff, just keep them all together and then peel the back off. Otherwise, they're going to be really, really hard to get that peel going. And then just snap them apart. Or cut them apart. Make sure they're not overlapping where they're peeking around the corner of your frame. You want them on the back side of your frame. So working on a black frame was a little bit of a challenge. I couldn't quite see where the lip was and where the actual frame was because a lot of frames have that lip to drop the picture down into. So I went through and I restapled some of these and pulled them out and redid them. So this part is done. So now we're totally done with the back. We've put our screws. But wait, there's more. We need to put a hanger on the top. So before we do any more, we're going to staple the cord for this can be hung on the wall. So one of the things when you're putting your cord onto your frame to hold it is you want to knot it. My husband pointed this out to me. Because you can staple those on, but if you get enough weight on your frame, if you don't knot it, when you staple it down, it's just going to slide through the staple. So I'm going to knot this, work a little Hallie magic and make this kind of cute, and then we're going to staple it on. So I decided to braid this because a 3-cord it's harder to break, so it's going to hold the weight a little bit better. And I learned that analogy a long time ago when my husband and I first got married. We went to marriage counseling. They were saying, you know, if you put the Lord in your life, the two of you with the Lord in your life, you got a better chance at making it. And it's like, you know, that has been 36 years later, so true. So there you go. I'm going to knot it at the end. Now for me, the biggest question is, do I want to put that in the front or in the back? So if I put it in the back, I'm going to trim it up, but I want to kind of give it a visual and see what it looks like in the front. Because that hanging in the front might look kind of cute, just dangling down too. That's front, that's back. I don't know, I think I'm going to go with the back. I think I'm going to do a little embellishing on this just to give it a little pop. So I'm going to lay out some rhinestones, Mod Podge them on, and we'll be done. Yeah. So let's put some bling on it. Wipe down your frame before you embellish it. When you were doing your drilling, all those little sawdust particles got onto your frame, and when you're doing your Mod Podge, you don't want that dust film on there. Mod Podge. And no, they're not my sponsor or anything. It's just a product that I know uses. I don't have sponsors. I haven't been on YouTube long enough to have sponsors. I do this for free. For love. Anyway, getting back on track and the silliness be gone. Anyway, put your Mod Podge on your toothpick. Put it on the back of your little embellishment and pop it down. It's that simple. It's not that hard. So I'm going to do this. And then I'll show you the finished product and we will be golden. And don't worry about it if it gets a little goopy. So as we're putting these on, if it gets a little goopy, that's okay because it dries clear. It really does. You don't want to be super sloppy. Like when I do my glasses and such, it's no big deal because it frosts the glass. But on wood, I think you would want to be a little bit more careful, but not being too messy. But just pop them on. Easy peasy. And what I'll do is I'll spin this frame around and we're going to do the whole frame. If you're comfortable, you can use these too. If that makes you a little bit easier, just pick them up. Dab it on. That works pretty good too. Just a little dab will do ya. So you can toothpick it, use the little stylus things, or just use your little tweezers. And don't put them too close to the knobs because if you do, they're just going to get knocked off by the jewelry eventually. They'll wear and knock off and look tacky. So just keep them around your corners and up. Make sure you tap them down, that they're nice and tight on there.